I want to start with a definition because this is something that a lot of new programmers, you'll hear this all over the place and you may not know what it even means. And that is CVE. It stands for Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures. Basically, it just means security bug. But when they're kind of listed, like if you go to Ruby and they list all their CVEs or a gem or something like that, they list them as CVEs. That's all it is security bug, basically. All right, so let's talk about, we talked about CVEs. Let us talk about ways to prevent yourself from running with crap with CVEs listed in it. Because CVEs pop up all the time. People are constantly saying, hey, there's a new CVE in this gem, or there's a new CVE in Ruby, or there's, you know, Nginx, all the things. So how do you help yourself not get in those situations? How do you do it?
So I don't use a lot of tools. I do have some tools, but primarily I sign up for the notifications. So like Ubuntu has a security list, and they send out almost on a daily basis the patches that they send out. So I take a look at what's there, if anything's relevant, to be able to say, okay, I need to patch my systems. Now that's not code security related, but it is related to security of the systems. But you know, they'll include things like Nginx in there, etc., as well as signing up for my language security notifications. So like if there is a Ruby bug in Ruby and they've released a new version, I'm on the email list to get when that happens. Or if there's a bug in Rails or one of its main gems, I get notified. And I'm sure there are tools, I haven't used a lot of them to actually update your gems, but also GitHub does that as well. And on the Ruby, again, a lot of the main gems do report to the main Ruby list that people use. Like, oh, what's the one I'm thinking? It'll come to me in a minute, but there's one gem that frequently has updates because it deals with XML and parsing HTML and XML.
Yeah.
I'll remember in a minute. But anyway, but they notify, even though that's a separate gem, they call out updates to it on the security lists.
Right. And there are, I mean, it's important I think to subscribe to those so that you get some notification of that. But it's also, I think, a good idea to have, especially if you're in a bigger environment, a team environment, to have automated tools that kind of run through and give you a shout when things are going south. So one of the things that that I've used, that we use, is called Dependabot. It's really good because it kind of keeps track of, I mean, it's really good for Ruby on Rails. It keeps track of your gem list and gives you, basically, it'll create a PR in GitHub automatically. If a CVE is found and you need to bump up to a different version, it'll tell you, hey, you need to bump to this version. So it's a really good automated thing. And there's other ones. There's one called Gemsurance by Appfolio. And it will also tell you, hey, you've got out-of-date things, and there's a vulnerable one here with this CVE in it. Here's some more info on it. So it's really good as well. It's also not a terrible idea to use things like this together. Put this on your system behind the scenes, but also have like something like Gemsurance running on your CI/CDs or something, or even run it manually every once in a while just to keep tabs on what's going on with your gem list.
Did you scroll to the bottom of Dependabot? All the way to the bottom.
All the way to the bottom. Yeah, it's free of charge now.
Yeah, so I think GitHub, that's what I was saying. I think GitHub is doing this automatically, at least for my repositories. Right, I don't know how it's different.
Yeah, but you can, I mean, it doesn't have to be enabled. unless they've recently changed something. But it used to be that you had to opt into it.
Well, maybe I did. But maybe they said something, hey, this is available, and I opted in.
So it works really well.
Needless to say, get something like this, or enable GitHub if it does that, or if your source control tool does something similar.
Right. Yeah, if you're not on GitHub, I go to it. It's awesome. But you know, and this does work for more than just Ruby. I think it's best with Ruby with the gems and stuff, but it works pretty well with other like .NET. It's working okay. So you know, grain of salt and your mileage may vary, but it's a good thing to run, especially if you're Rails. And then Gemsurance is really good too. It's a little out of date, but because it doesn't keep its own CVE list, it doesn't really have to be updated very much because it runs off of remote CVE lists. So not really an issue. There's another one called Hakiri that does Ruby on Rails security checking, CVE checking. It is specifically built for Ruby on Rails. So if you're not a Rails shop, that won't help you much. But if you want to check it out, the links are in the description. So that's kind of what you do for keeping your gems and your plugins and all your ancillary bits up to date and CVE-less.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.